Because I thought my life was over. And actually my life was over, that life. But I had no idea that what would happen to me in my life and what's happened to my wife and myself and our family and what's, the things that have transpired. It's beyond belief. I wanted to say something about if there's anybody out there like me that, when I got here I had a lot of baggage. I had a lot of stuff going on. I'll get into that a little bit. But I was thinking that, actually last night even, thinking about this talk, that, so many years I hear speaking, I've been a very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous for a long time, and I've gone to a lot of conferences, heard a lot of speakers, I've heard a lot of things, and for years and years and years, especially like Chuck Chamberlain when he used to talk about this smooth life that he had, and I always hear people talk about how things they were comfortable with everything, and my life was never comfortable. My life was just a hassle from day one, it seemed like, until I way into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thought, is that ever going to happen for me? When am I going to get mine? I used to think about that all the time. I hear these guys talk about they had these great marriages, and they got along with their wives, and that wasn't a problem. Not me. They had these great jobs, and they liked going to work. Not me, I hated it. All these things that were just constant conflict in my life. But I got to tell you, if there's anybody out there like me, it changed. It's not that way anymore. I don't know what happened. I don't know when it happened, but I woke up one day and you know what? I don't have any trouble anymore. And Alcoholics Anonymous gave me that along the way. And that was a gift that I got just by being an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous and taking direction from a sponsor and trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have a fantastic life today because of that. But let me tell you about how I screwed it up in the first place. I started out life like most people, I guess. I had two alcoholic parents, but that really didn't affect my drinking. As a matter of fact, I had a fantastic time when I was a teenager because my parents were both alcoholics, so I had zero supervision. I could do whatever I wanted to do. Now, I grew up in Northern California, and in California in those days, you could get a driver's license when you were 14 years old. So I got a driver's license, and my father was pretty well connected in the town that I grew up in. He was a pretty successful businessman, but he was connected in that he knew all the cops and all the judges, more than anything else. That helped me out later. But anyway, so I had this teenage life where when I was 14, I got this really nice 34 Ford Coupe shop channel, and I had a full race engine, all chrome, all this stuff, I had money, I had a fake ID, and I had the run of my life, and I just started doing what teenagers do, I guess, in those days. I started drinking, it didn't seem like a big deal. Everybody drank. This is in the late 40s. Everybody's drinking, I didn't think it was a big deal. I don't identify with a lot of drinkers that talk about how they felt when they drank. I never felt any way when I drank. I just did it. It seemed like a good idea at the time. There was I never said, I feel good, I'm going to drink, I feel bad, I'm going to drink. I just drank. That's all I did. And I started partying, I started going to Tao, and I started going to San Francisco and running all over the country doing stuff like that. And I always was kind of a lot of other guys talk about being isolated. I was not isolated, I had friends. I was kind of the leader of the pack, because I had the money and I had the car. So I had all these guys hanging around me. My wife calls them Lord companions. And, but I guess I needed that. And so I just started this lifestyle that just permeated. And I was always a guy that I seemed like I was in a hurry. I wanted to get on with my life. I didn't want to screw around like wasting my time going to school, for example. So when I was 16, I quit school. And I started going into business, and I started doing deals, and I got married very young, and I started having kids, and I started doing all this stuff. And I self-will run riot. I didn't recognize it at the time. I didn't think about it. It just seemed, that's what you do. I was successful and I was unsuccessful. And I was always doing deals. I never had a job. In fact, the first job I ever had in my life was when I moved to Los Angeles in 1980. And so, deals, regardless of whether they're good deals or bad deals, are not permanent. They're always temporary. So I had this life, this roller coaster life, and I had these 3 kids, and I had this wife that didn't understand me, and it was just constant conflict, and I couldn't figure out what the hell's going on. I'm doing the best I can, you know. And I figured out, I finally figured out, after being in Alcoholics Anonymous a while, why I drank. And I know why I drank now. I drank because when I drink, I don't have to live up to the consequences of my actions. I don't have to stay there and listen to the music. I can move on. So when I married Betty Ann, she was my 5th marriage. And let me tell you how I resolve issues. I'll give you an example of my keen alcoholic thinking. I was married to my first wife, and I was between deals, I guess, because the phone was disconnected. And she asked me to go to the phone booth and call work for her and tell her that she had the flu, because she had a hangover, actually. And I'm in Sacramento, California now, if anybody knows where that is, in Northern California. So I'm driving to the phone booth and I'm thinking, you know what? I don't need to do this. I didn't go to the phone booth. I went to Las Vegas. And I stayed there for a year. And she divorced me while I was gone, if you can believe it. And that made perfect sense to me. And that's how I resolve issues. And that's what I did from then on until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I would get a new wife, I'd get a new town, I'd get a new state, I'd get a new business, I'd get a new whatever, you know. And I did this over and over and over again. And I married, when I went back to Sacramento after a year, I met another girl and I married her. Totally different than my first wife. Very boring. And I lasted about 6 to 8 months and I divorced her. Again, I started thinking, you know, I'll tell you, there's a couple things that I've figured out since I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous. One is, this head doesn't give this person good information. Never has, never will. Secondly, I do better when I do things I don't want to do than when I do things I do want to do. That was a tough lesson for me to learn. Anyway, so I married this girl and I finally divorced her. So I married the first one again. I figured, you know, this time it's going to be different. And it was worse. So I divorced her and I married the second one again. And, you know, my Al-Anon wife likes me to tell this story. I'm really actually embarrassed to tell it. But she's here, so I'll do it for her. During this time when I was going back and forth between these 2 wives, they both decided to commit suicide at the same time. They didn't succeed. They just wanted some attention. But they're both in the same psychiatric hospital on the same ward in adjoining rooms, actually. They didn't know the other one was there. But they were both Mrs. Bob Zetz. And I went up to visit them and I thought, you know, I must be doing something right. Anyway, I had trouble with relationships, obviously. So I'm doing all this stuff, running around the country, living all over every place, and I was back east on this big deal, and then in 1971, I guess it was, the thing blew up, of course, and the reason it blew up was because I was involved in it, I guess. And I'm tapped out. I got no place to go. I called my mother and she wouldn't give me any more money. First time she ever turned me down. And I came back to California and I was up in the Bay Area and I was trying to get something going. I couldn't get it going. And my second and fourth wife, who was the same person, mother owned a old folks home in Sparks, Nevada, which is right next door to Reno. And I didn't know what the hell to do. I had no place to go. What am I going to do? So I called her and said, you know, Reno's always been a town I think I can live in. Can I come and stay with you until I get something going? And the reason I called her, I didn't have any other choice. I didn't know who else to call. There was no other place to go that I could think of. And she said, okay. So I went to Reno. Now, I'm hip, slick, and cool, you know. You got to remember, I'm this, you know, legend in my own mind. The Al-Anons call it denial, but that word's not in the big book. It's not good enough for us. I'm delusional. There's a lot of word about it. There's a a lot of words about this. They talk about delusion in the big book a lot. I mean, I'm delusional. I got these ideas of who I am or what I am, and it's all bull, you know. So I go to Reno, and what am I going to do? I got a job driving a cab for Whittlesey Cab, and you know, I found out that I have another disease also called this ain't itism, because whenever I do things I think I need and I get it, but that's not it. Anyway, I'm driving this cab and it's not, you know, this isn't it. Well, I grew up in Sacramento, California, and my best friend, who I grew up with my whole life, in fact, he's 18 days younger than me, we were born across the street from each other. He's an Armenian guy, and his family owned this really successful Armenian restaurant in Sacramento. In fact, I built this restaurant for him. And I used to go in there and see him, and we'd close the bar a lot of times, and it seemed to me that the only thing he would ever do is schmooze with the people, and then at the end of the night he counted the money. And I thought, you know, I should have one of these, you know. That looks like fun, you know. So I said to him, Ronnie, let's build a restaurant in Reno. And he said, you know what I've always wanted to do? I'll tell you what, you find a place, you build it, I'll go in partners with you and show you how to run it. And I said, okay, well, all right, go through it. Now I'm working as a cab driver, making $100 a week. And I'll tell you, I put my thinking hat on, and I put together the money, and I found this one. I built this gorgeous my wife called it 5-star. I don't think there is a 5-star. 5-star restaurant. But it was a beautiful dining house and cocktail lounge, you know, one of the nicest spots in Reno. It really was. Really a beautiful restaurant. And I thought, you know, this time I'm going to do it right. This time I'm going to be part of the community, I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to be a good citizen, I'm going to do the whole thing. I mean, this is my opportunity. You know, I'm getting older, I'm almost 40 years old now. I mean, I need to get my life together and grow up, and I really had these, you know, feelings that this is my chance. Of course, you know, I'm an alcoholic. You know, I screw up everything I touch. That's just the way it is, you know. I screwed up my kids, I screwed up my marriages, I screwed up every business I was ever in. I just screwed up everything up because I'm a self-centered, egotistical alcoholic, and my mottos are right for me and screw you. You know, that's just the way it is. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I don't know why I'm that way. That's the way I am. Anyway, so I get this restaurant ready to open, and I'm stocking the bar. That's what time, you know, I'm putting all the booze away in the bar, and we have this huge wine list. We got like 1,000 wines on the wine list, a big wall of wine racks, you know, really nice. Of course, when you're putting booze away, you got to sample it. So I sampled this booze, and about 2 weeks before the place is open, I'm driving back to Sparks, and I get stopped for drunk driving. And I thought, oh Jesus, this is not good for my image. You know? But you know what? I've driven drunk 15 million times. I mean, I'm due. And I used to get stopped in Sacramento all the time for drunk driving. And the cop would look at my license and say, you related to Matt Zetz? Yeah, he's my father. Okay, get in the car, I'll take you home. I'll give you an example how much I got away with. One night it was Armed Forces Day during the Korean War. They had a big parade in Sacramento. And about 3 in the morning, I'm driving down Broadway in Sacramento, and where the parade route was, and I hit a parked tank that they'd left there for the parade. And I hit this tank, and I bounce off, you know, but I can't go, my car won't move, so the cop's right behind me. Looks at my license, really, that's you. Okay, put a note on the tank. He made me write a note, put it on the tank that I hit it. Never heard from him, actually. That was my total military service. Anyway, so I figured, you know what, I'm due, no big deal. Pay the fine, that'll be the end of it. Anyway, so this guy that became a customer of ours was an attorney. Became a good customer in the restaurant. We opened the restaurant, and this guy, I knew the guy a little bit, but then he started coming to the restaurant all the time, and he was an attorney. He owned a casino in Sparks, right next to John Spauger's Nugget. And on the ground floor, he had a casino, and behind the casino, he had a bar, cocktail lounge with live music and live girls. And I used to go in there once in a while, and on the second floor was his law offices. So I'm going home one night from the restaurant. The restaurant's been open now about 2-3 weeks. We're doing great. Business is fantastic. And I'm, of course, drunk. And I stop by this place to go into this bar and see what's happening in the lounge there. And I come out of the bar, and there's a cop standing by my car, parked out front. And he says, This your car? Yeah. Were you driving on the freeway? I said, I just got a report of a blue Cadillac driving the wrong way on the freeway. Was that you? And I said, no, I've been in here for about 3 hours. So he put his hand on my hood to see if the engine was warm. I've only been in here like 5 minutes. I think it was me. I think it was actually the black one. And now I'm so drunk I can hardly walk. The guy is standing there. Again, this keen alcoholic mind kicks in. You don't hear that statement in Al-Anon, by the way. And I walk around the car and get in the car and drive off. And of course I go about 50 feet and he stops it and I get nailed again for drunk driving. Now I hadn't even been to court on the first one yet. And so now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I got to get an attorney, man. I got to get a hotshot attorney. Well, this guy was a pretty hotshot attorney. So I used to tell my wife, I got to stop by after I close the restaurant and talk to my attorney about my case at 2 in the morning, you know. And I was going in this bar in the back there. And I was in there one night and there was this really hot looking cocktail waitress. And our eyes met. We fell into immediate lust. She had on hot pants. I had hot pants. One thing led to another. And last June we celebrated 36 years of marriage. A match made in heaven. Anyway, Betty Ann and I hooked up and she came to work for me and we got rid of my wife and we moved in together and we started this dance. You know, it was fun. I mean, we had a ball for a while. We really did. Because in the early 70s in Reno, all of the casinos were owned by local people. And we used to comp each other. So I knew all the pit bosses and I knew all the maitre d's and all that stuff and all the clubs and all the showrooms and all that. I could get anywhere. I could go in any showroom, get comped. I could drink in any casino free. They'd come to my restaurant, I'd comp them. I mean, we just were having a ball. Every night we'd close the restaurant, we'd go downtown and go to a show or go here, go there, whatever. And one night she turned on me. One night just out of the blue, she said, you know what, I can't do this. And I said, you can't do what? She goes, I can't work all day, run a restaurant, and then go drink all night. She said, I can't do it. I said, well, don't, go home. I mean, you know, I know how to do it. I mean, I don't need you to show me. So she started going home, and I started doing what I always continued to do. And that's one of the things I don't understand about Al-Anon. Now, she was a pre-Al-Anon at the time, of course you don't know, but I don't understand why they're so concerned about what somebody else is doing. It doesn't compute to me. Because when I was down there in those casinos and she's home and she's calling a Whittlesey cab saying, where have you got to go? I didn't have a driver's license or thing. Not one time did I ever think, I wonder what Betty Ann's doing. Thought never crossed my mind, not once. And she's chasing me all over Reno like a mad dog. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'd be in a casino playing blackjack or something, she'd come in and just clear the table and get out. Knock the chips all over, they'd haul her out. It was crazy, man. We were together 13 months and married for 3 months when she finally got the hit. She took her 13 months to get over me. That's all the drinking, all my drinking she could stand was 13 months. Anyway, I continued on. I mean, I just doing what I was ever doing, what I was always doing. I mean, I'd never been in this kind of situation before where I had a crazy woman doing what she was doing, you know. And it was getting real hectic. And so one Saturday morning on January the 20th, 1974, I got home about 9 or 10 in the morning, I guess. Not unusual. What was unusual, though, is that I had the car the night before. I didn't have a driver's license. I don't know how I got the car, but I lost the car, you know. And I didn't know where the hell it was. And, anyway, I finally got home and I went in the room, finally got into the house and she looked at me and she said, I'm not doing this anymore. She said, I'm going to take you for everything you ever had, everything you ever thought I have if you don't stop drinking. I've called Al-Anon and do something about my life. Either you do something about yours or it's over. She goes, I love you and I want to be married to you, but I'm not going to live this way anymore. And I knew there was something different about her for this time. I thought, Jesus, there's something going on here. And I thought, this would really not be a good time for another divorce. So, okay, what do you want me to do? Just, you know, I figured get the heat off because Betty Ann was the type of person at that time, she tried everything. She'd been to the doctor, she'd been to the palm reader, she'd been to the astrologist, she bought a sexy outfit from Frederick to Hollywood to keep me home, you know. She'd done all these things and they wouldn't work, so she'd give up. And I figured she'd go to Al-Anon for a couple of weeks, she'll get over that, and I'll be into that. And get back to life. Now, I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous because my life was over as far as I was concerned. That I had a problem. I never even thought about cutting down, let alone stopping. I had a crazy wife, that's all I had, who just didn't understand me. And all these other people didn't understand me. I had no desire to start her, you know. But I said, I gotta get the heat off, so, okay, I'll do it. So she dialed the phone for Alcoholics Anonymous, the line was busy. Finally got through, the lady talked to me and said, can you come to a meeting tonight? And I said, well, I'd like to, but I've got a previous commitment, I gotta go see Liberace, and I'll catch you some other time. You know? I mean, I was really motivated. And so she said, well, there's one tomorrow night. So her and I, Betty Ann and I went to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting the next night at the PA hospital in Reno, Nevada on a Sunday night, and I was not impressed, I gotta tell you. And the next night, now, you gotta remember, I'm hip, sick, and cool. I got this delusion of me. My delusion of me is that I'm a suave, debonair, successful businessman. You know? And you know, that's one thing about alcoholism, that if you're an alcoholic like me, that you can put on that illusion, I think, because I was getting away with it in my head. I really wasn't getting away with it. The fact of the matter was is that my wife was divorcing me. My business was going down the tube. I owed everybody in town money. I was on COD with every supplier I had. I even to the point where they wouldn't even accept my checks anymore. I had to pay them cash. I had about $65,000 worth of hot checks out at casinos. I had a little check kiting thing going. I had all these monumental problems, but in my head, I'm this suave, debonair, successful businessman. You know? And you know, the funny thing about it is that if you didn't know me, and you didn't know Betty Ann, if you'd have looked at us in those days and said, you know, there's a really nice young couple. They got this nice business, they got a nice house, they live in the right neighborhood, they drive the right car, they know all the right people. That's what we were, but it was a big sham. It was all smoke and mirrors like my entire life. But I was getting away with that illusion. I had all these balls in here, and I didn't realize how tired I was getting about juggling those balls until they all came crashing down. And you know, there's a lot of alcoholics that do that, that get away with that. And for a long time, and I did it for a long time. And I'll tell you, it got very tiring. But when you're in the middle of something like that, it becomes normal, I think, you know. And I didn't know any other way to live at the time. So I went to the Sunday meeting, and Monday I went to the class meeting of Reno called the Puke on the Shoes Group. And coming back to the restaurant that night, Betty Ann went to her first Al-Anon meeting. Coming back to the restaurant that night, I told her, I said, you know what, I don't think I can do this AA thing. It's just too kooky for me. And she said, well, you made a commitment to your brother. My brother got sober in 1960. And we're very close, and he talked to me and said, you know, why don't you just go try it for 60 days, and you say 90 days. He said, make a commitment to me, you'll try it for 60 days. So she said, you know, you promised your brother you'd go for 60 days. And I said, all right. So the next afternoon, I went to the Alano Club in Sparks, Nevada, and the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous began to happen to me. And what happened was I was standing against the wall. A guy came over to me and said, are you okay? And I said, why? He said, man, you look terrible. I said, I do. He said, you look like you're going to fly apart. I'm dressed like I'm dressed now, in a nice suit. I said, I do. He said, you look rough, man. Anyway, he introduced himself. I know Bill Reeder. And he kind of took me under his wing. And he got me involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. His wife was Al-Anon. We became very close. In fact, about 3 weeks later, the Las Vegas Roundup in 1974 was going on at the I forget where it was, at the Stardust Hotel in Reno, and he talked us into going to it. I didn't have 5 cents in my name. But somehow or another, we put together the money, and I went to my first convention. I was 13 days sober, something like that. Almost got the big book. And I've been doing it ever since. But anyway, this guy took me under his wing, and there's one thing I need to say, and I forget about saying this a lot, but I want to say this. Bill Reeder was a great member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he helped a lot of people, including me. And he got me involved and started in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't ask him to be my sponsor. I don't know why. It never came up in 1974 in Reno. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. And he used to 12-step all kinds of people. But 3 years after I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, he died drunk. And he died drunk because he quit doing the things that kept him sober. And he got into a different spiritual plane of some kind, I don't know what. Got this other God, I don't know what, anyway, I guess he came as God one day, said, let's go have a drink. And they did, and he died drunk. But he was a great guy, and he helped me to save my life, and I'm going to be always grateful for that. You know, that's kind of the story of Alcoholics Anonymous, so if you look out over the years of the people, I mean, like what happened with Eddie and Billy, you know, although he died drunk, but it's an amazing thing how one person gets it and does these things, and then for some reason they just fall off the cliff. So anyway, I started getting involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I got to where I really liked AA. I liked the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. But again, I got this brain that doesn't give me good information. I know that now, I didn't know it then. And I'm going to a lot of meetings. I like meetings. I've always liked meetings. I still go to a lot of meetings. And I started hearing things like, bring the body and the mind will follow. Put your butt in the seat and get this program from osmosis. And I'm thinking, hey, I'm doing everything everybody else is doing. I'm going to all these meetings. I'm doing a lot of, I'm making food for the parties at the Alano Club. I'm doing all this stuff. And my life is just falling apart piece by piece. My head is just doing tricks on me. I'm just, you know, I can't get my life and my act together. I mean, it's got one catastrophe after another. I couldn't figure out what the hell is going on. And so again, I'm thinking, you know, when I was drinking, I never felt this way. You know, I guess booze would turn my head off, so I said, you know, I gotta have a drink. So I got to where I wanted to drink, didn't want to drink all the time. In January of 1976, I just couldn't take it anymore, and I knew my head was going to blow off, so I went out and I drank. I went out on a Tuesday night, one night, it was a night I didn't have a meeting, so I didn't even miss a meeting. I went out and I got drunk, and it didn't turn my head off at all. I got so drunk I couldn't walk and I couldn't talk, but my head is as clear as it is right now. I just did nothing for me. And I thought, man, I'm screwed. And my wife, a guy I sponsored came over and she made him take me out of the house. And I made him take me to a bar. And I said, buy me a drink. And he said, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. I said, I'm your sponsor, dude, I tell you. So he bought me a drink, and I started to drink this drink, and I couldn't drink it. I couldn't swallow it. And I guess I had my moment of clarity. I guess I had that moment where God taps you on the shoulder and says, you know what? I'm going to give you an opportunity to do something about your life. And I think a lot of people, I don't know of anybody in Alcoholics Anonymous who got sober and stayed sober that didn't have a moment of clarity. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that have the moment of clarity and they miss it. Thank God so far I haven't missed it. But it became very clear to me that instant, that day, January 21st, 1976. I was walking home from this bar. It was about a mile of my house. It was cold. It was snowing a little bit in Reno, and I just knew I'm an alcoholic. If you drink like me and you want to have any kind of a life, you can't drink. And the only way I'm going to not drink is I got to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to probably even have to get a sponsor and even try the steps. And I'll live miserably ever after, and I will never have fun again. I knew my life was over. But you know what? I was okay with it. I accepted it. Because I didn't want to drink anymore. I was done then. I don't know what happened. And it was removed like that. And it's never come back. There's never been a time since that moment that I've ever considered having a drink. I've had a lot of good things happen to me and a lot of bad things happen to me since then. But the alcohol was gone. I'll tell you something else that went that day too, and I don't know why that happened. Gambling went. Because I was a ferocious gambler. No, I wasn't a gambler, I was a lever of money in casinos. And that went. That bores the hell out of me too. You know, so I don't know what happened, but God tapped me on the shoulder, and I'm grateful for that. So I started this journey, you know, and I got a sponsor, and I started doing this stuff, and I had a rough time, man. I had a really tough time for a long time in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm trying to work, and, oh, by the way, when I got sober for the final time, we had a new baby, 3-month-old son. When I started going with Betty Ann, I told her I was sterile, because the doctors actually told me I was sterile. But when I got sober, she started getting pregnant. So we started having kids. So we had this new son, I didn't want to screw up another family. Because, my first kids I was a terrible father for my first 3 kids that I had with my first wife. Because I was the kind of father that if I was making money, I'd show up and give them all kinds of stuff, and I'd take them on trips, and fly them here, fly them there. I gave my kid a car one year for Christmas. He was 5 years old. I mean, stupid stuff. Then I'd disappear for a couple of years. They wouldn't even know where I was at. I was there one time, I remember with my first wife, I showed up after a couple of years, and she said, when you go on your little runners like this and you disappear, these kids still got to eat, they still got to have a bedroom to sleep in. It'd be nice if you thought about that once in a while. My only thought was, you selfish bitch. That was my attitude. But anyway, so I didn't want to screw that up again. And then, so I had this new son, and then, so I got sober, and then, of course, Betty Ann got pregnant. And we had twin girls. And I was about a year and a half sober, things were getting a little better. I was working the steps. I was going through a real difficult period of acceptance. For me to accept something, I gotta either like it or I gotta approve of it a little bit. And Betty Ann went in to feed the babies one morning, and she picked up one of the babies, and the baby was dead. Died of sepsis, of crib death. And I couldn't believe it. God, what have you done to me now? I was really upset with God, who I didn't understand, of course. And I had a very, very difficult time with that, but you got to accept something like that. Even though it's unacceptable, you got to accept it. And Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon worked us through that. We lived through that. And we got going, and then my deal in Reno blew up again, and so I went to Texas on a deal. We were in Texas about 3 years, and that thing blew up. And at the International Convention in New Orleans, I met some people from California, and one of the guys that I met was an architect. And he said, they're doing a lot of commercial construction in Southern California. Why don't you come out and take a look? He said, I think you'd probably get something going out there. So I came out to California. I got a job building high-rises in Century City, California. And I got the first job I ever had in my life. The first time I ever had a job where you just go get a paycheck, and at the end of the week they hand you a check, and there's no deal involved. There's no, if you do this, you get extra, or some of it, just a check. And again, I'm thinking, okay, this time I'm not going to screw it up. I'm going to bring my family out here. I'm going to pay my bills. I'm going to be a good citizen. I'm going to do all the right things. And after about 3 weeks of working at this job, I'm telling you, my head kicked in again, and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? These guys don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to run a business. They've been in business for 50 years, of course, and they're successful, but hips look cool to me. I got all the answers, and I'm miserable. Well, right about that time, I was having a real difficult time with Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't like the meetings. They didn't treat me right. They didn't say hello to me when I didn't see you all come back like they do in Texas. And I'm starting not going to meetings, and I'm sitting at home one Thursday night. This will give you an example of Al-Anon love and tolerance. I'm sitting home one Thursday night, and there was a meeting in Thousand Oaks that I used to go to, which I hated. And my wife said, "You go to the meeting?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go." So pretty soon she goes, "It's 7:45, you better get going. It starts at 8. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go. About 5 to 8, she goes, "You going to go to the meeting?" "Yeah, I'm going to go." About 3 minutes to 8, a flower pot went flying right past my head. And she said, "Listen, you SOB, you're an admitted alcoholic, and either you go to AA or you ain't living here. So you better get your butt out and find some place you enjoy going to, because if you don't go to meetings, you don't live here." With love, she did it. And I've been a great believer since that time that if you make an effort to get what you need in Alcoholics Anonymous, it'll be given to you. Because the next day I went to the San Fernando Valley Convention in 1981, and I was standing in the line. I was on my way out of AA. And a guy who registered right before me was a guy by the name of Albert Myers, who lived in Dallas. A guy that I knew from Dallas. Al's dead now, so I can use his name. And I said, Al, what are you doing here? You know? Anyway, we talked, and I told him what was going on with me. And he said, you know, there's a guy here I want you to meet. In fact, I'm staying with him. And if you get hooked up with him, I think you'll be fine. Anyway, he said, he's speaking tomorrow afternoon. Let's go listen to him. I'll introduce you to him. So I went and I met him, and I met Keith Carpenter, who became my sponsor. He was my sponsor until he died 4.5 years ago. And I got hooked up in the Pacific Group. I mean, I didn't know anything about the Pacific Group, really. I knew about Clancy because the group that I went to in Dallas, their claim to fame was that Clancy used to steal money out of the box there when he used to go to meetings there. He used to come and speak there once a year. I always kid him about that. So, I mean, I didn't know anything about the Pacific Group, but now I'm 5 years sober, and Keith said, well, let's meet Tuesday night and we'll talk about it. Have dinner, talk about it. So I went and met him Tuesday night. And he said, okay, here's what I'll be happy to sponsor, but here's what I want you to do. And he laid it out, and I'm thinking, Jesus, this guy's nuts or what? And for some reason or other, my mouth said, okay. And I'll tell you, that guy gave me the greatest gift I think a sponsor can give a baby. He showed me how to be an active, enthusiastic member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He didn't tell me how to do it, he showed me how to do it. And I just hooked onto his wagon. I didn't even have to think about it anymore. I just jumped in the stream with all the other people in the Pacific Group, and I floated down the stream, and I was drug into action in Alcoholics Anonymous, and my life began to change, slowly but surely. In fact, I've been in the Pacific Group now 30 years, and I finally arrived. I got on the coffee crew, finally. Now, that's kind of the Supreme Court of Alcoholics Anonymous in the Pacific Group, because it's the only commitment that never changes. It's a lifetime commitment. And we probably got more sobriety in that coffee group and on that coffee crew than most groups. You know, I imagine there's probably 500 years of sobriety in that coffee group. And so now I get to make coffee after 30 years. But it's a great group, and I'm happy for that. And Betty Ann got Sally, Keith's wife, for her sponsor. And we started this journey. And things slowly began to change, and our kids started growing up, and our other daughter started acting weird when the surviving daughter, when she was about 16, she went out. And we had to throw her out of the house. We had to get rid of her. And I'm sorry to say that as I stand here this morning, she's still out there. She's 34 years old now, and she's still been trying to figure it out. She called last week and said she thinks she wants to do something for herself. I gave her some phone numbers and said, hey, a lot of people would like to hear from you. Call them. And I can't do anything about it. And I mentioned that my life began to change, and I think one of the things that changed for me is that about 10 or 12 years ago, I guess it was, I ran across a line in a little paragraph, a couple paragraphs in a big book. I'm sure I'd seen it before, but I never really identified with it that much. And what it said was that there's two laws. The first law is there's two sins. The first sin is to interfere with the growth of another human being, and the second sin is to interfere with your own growth. And there's one law, and the law is love. And I really kind of took that to heart. That's what I'm doing, man. I'm interfering with the life of other people, a lot of other people, including my kids and my wife. And when I do that, it affects I'm interfering with my own growth. And I kind of had a little change of attitude about what's going on with my sobriety, with my life, and what I should be doing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I always think about, I remember the late Jim Williams from Texas, who became a really good friend of mine when I lived in Dallas. He used to tell us all the time, they need to be told, but not by you. And that's the best advice I ever got. And I was doing all that. I was trying to run people's lives, and I was forcing my will. And my sponsor always said, you can't force your will on other people. And all these things were being put into my psyche, I guess. And I began to hopefully begin to start living them a little bit. And I started leveling those things out to the point now where, I don't have any conflicts. I really don't. We had lots of money problems. I could never get the money thing straightened out. I've always spent at least 10% more than I ever made. That's just the way. It's supposed to do it, right? I was always having hassles with money. I could never get that squared away. That's not an issue anymore for some reason. I don't know that line in the big book that says, for us financial independence comes as a result of spiritual growth. It never precedes it. Jesus, my sponsor used to tell me that all the time. Come on. But that's the way it is. This is a spiritual disease and it needs a spiritual solution. That's what I believe now. And so all these things began to happen to me, and slowly but surely my life began to change. And I'm actually in a position right now. I've got a little transition going on in my life right now. I've been in commercial construction now in Southern California for the last 30 years. And I've been with the company for quite a few years. I'm a senior project manager. And they want to keep me, but we don't have any work. I don't know, there's a recession going on. I think it's probably happening even here, maybe. And we don't have any work. And I'm finishing up this big project that's probably going to be done in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know what's going to happen. Now, there was a time in my life that I would be on the ceiling over this. And it's not an issue. It's not, I'm concerned about it a little bit. Because we're raising our grandson. I'll get into that in a minute. But you know what? Hey, I'm 75 years old. One of these days I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. Until that happens, here's the way I look at it. Because of my great money managing skills, my fantastic investments, I got enough money to last me the rest of my life if I die tonight. And if I do that one day at a time, it's okay, It's no big deal. Because you know what, I've been around here for almost 36 years, and I've never seen anybody starve to death that's been active in Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't seen it happen yet. So I don't think my higher power brought me this far to drop me on my head. Let me tell you a little bit about my family, what's going on with that. I got a bunch of kids. Betty Ann had 3 kids, I had 3 kids, we had 3 kids. And this mixed conglomerate of things. I told you about my one daughter, she's still out there, hopefully she'll get sober one of these days. Our son married this girl, they moved to Michigan, and she's an alcoholic, and he had to leave her, so they're doing their little dance, and hopefully that'll change. All of my other kids, I don't have any conflict with anymore. It's unbelievable. It's all just leveled out. They do what they want to do, I do what I want to do, and we don't have any conflict. I don't have any resentments against them anymore, I don't have any. But the disease of alcoholism is a strange phenomenon, and it's been very strange in our family. Because my oldest son from my first marriage got sober, and he was sober about 2.5 years, and I got that call about 3 in the morning one night that no parent ever wants to get from the coroner's office saying they found him dead in the trailer from an overdose. And it was a shocking thing, but you know what? I wasn't mad at God this time. Because I knew that he died of the disease of alcoholism. God didn't have anything to do with it. He had free choice, and he chose to try it again. My daughter, who's still out there, got involved with a guy in AA about 13 years ago, and they were going to get married, and she got pregnant. That's the way they do it nowadays. And then they broke up because she got loaded, and she had a son, and we had to take that boy away from her. And he came to live with us, and then the father got back into the picture, so he went and lived with him for a couple of years. And we were sitting home one Sunday morning, we got a call from one of his friends. He OD'd, died after 8 years of sobriety. The father, so the boy was with us that weekend, and so he's been with us ever since. In fact, he's sleeping in it, he's with us this weekend. Great kid, I don't know where this kid came from, but he's a great kid, We got him in private school, and he's doing fantastic. And he broke his arm the week before school was out, playing football in the gym, and just got the cast off Monday. So he's hopefully out there swimming. But he's a fantastic kid. Then a couple of years ago, we went to Croatia. I have a family that lives on this island in Croatia, the Adriatic Sea. So we went to Croatia to visit our family, and I got a call at 3 in the morning from Croatia that I have a 23-year-old grandson named OD died. My son who died, his youngest son. And let me tell you about what's strange about that is because he has an older brother. And that older brother has been living with my wife and I for the last 1.5 years. He just got out of the Marines about 1.5 years ago. He was a captain in the Marines. Went to college, went into the Marines, became a captain. As a matter of fact, I talked him into going back into the reserves when he came and stayed with us. He married this Brazilian girl, beautiful little girl, and they've been living with us for about a year and a half. He just started law school last week in San Diego, so they moved out. But he's being, I talked him into going back into the reserves, and he's being promoted to the company commander this weekend. Actually, they have a big ceremony at Port Wayne Naval Station Saturday. Tomorrow, this Saturday. Of course, we're not going to be there. So 2 kids from the exact same environment, the exact same parents. One ODs and dies, and one becomes a captain in the Marines and not going to law school. How do you figure it? About a year ago, I got my daughter who lives in Reno had 2 sons. I got a call from her. Her oldest son OD'd and died. Same thing. He's got a brother. I went about 6 months ago to Reno to the University of Nevada and watched him graduate with honors from the University of Nevada. 2 kids, exact same environment. One OD'd and died. One graduates with honors from the University of Nevada. I don't get it. You know, I don't know why people, some scumbag like me gets it, and these guys, I don't understand. I don't know what it is. But that's this disease of alcoholism. And I've just, I don't say that to get any sympathy, I just tell you that that's what happens to people like us that don't do what we're supposed to do. It happens all the time, And it's a sad affair, and I think about my daughter out there all the time, And she's a girl, and I'm thinking, what the hell is she up to? But I gotta wipe that out of my mind. I gotta stay busy. I gotta go to meetings. I gotta work with the people I sponsor. I gotta talk to my sponsor. I gotta do all the stuff I've been taught to do here. I gotta be consistent. My sponsor used to hammer in my head all the time, you need to be consistent. And that's what I try to be, I try to be consistent. My life today is unbelievable, I have a fantastic marriage, in my opinion. If you're around Saturday, you can go hear my wife and hear her side of it, see if she feels the same way. But I'll tell you why my marriage is fantastic is because it's effortless. I don't have to put any effort in it anymore, We're not supposed to have expectations, I guess, but I do have expectations about my marriage. I really do. There's certain things in life that I have expectations about. I have expectations about what meeting I'm going to go to. I have expectations about what my sponsor's going to tell me to do and what I'm going to do about that. I have expectations about what my wife's going to do and not going to do. There's certain things that I have expectations about. There's certain things that are set in concrete as far as I'm concerned. Certain things I don't do and certain things I do, and that's just the way it is. And because of that, I have a great life today. I don't believe that I've changed that much. I think I'm the same idiot that I was when I got here. I'll tell you what's changed, those circumstances of my life have changed. Because I don't do the things I used to do. I have to do the things that I used to have to do those things. I don't have to lie and cheat anymore. And I never had a feeling of remorse or guilt. I remember when I was new, I was in a meeting when I was about 3 months sober, and the subject was guilt, and I had a tinge of guilt for the first time in my life. And what it was is that I felt guilty that I'd never felt guilty. And I'm serious as I'm standing here when I say that. Because I was always under the impression that, my case is different, you don't understand. I wouldn't lie to you if you didn't ask me stupid questions like where you've been for the last 3 days. When I tell you, I picked up a girl and I went to Tahoe for 3 days, you don't ask a stupid question, I won't have to lie to you. That's the way I live my life. And I didn't steal money because I wanted to. I steal it because I had to. All of those things. I don't need to live that way anymore. So the circumstances of my life have changed, and as a result of that, my life has changed. So I don't have any problem answering the phone. I don't have any problem having a listed phone number. I don't have any problem getting mail and open letters and all that stuff. I'm not running from anybody, and I'm not chasing anything. And it was a long, long, hard struggle getting here, but I'll tell you something, it was worth every step of it. So if any of you out there are having the same kind of problems I had, I just got to tell you, hang in there. And if you stay active, and if you do what your sponsor tells you to do, and if you're an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you do all the stuff, you sponsor people, you have a sponsor, you have a home group, you have commitments, you do the things, if you're anything like me, your life will probably change too. I'm going to leave you with a little line that my wife always says, because I want to honor my late sponsor, Keith Carpenter. because he was a guy that really changed my life. He really did. When Keith died, I didn't know what to do. You know, I was lost. We were very close. So I did what I've done over the years. A lot of times I went down and saw Clancy, who was his sponsor, and I asked Clancy, "What do I do?" You know how close Keith and I were. And he said, "You know what to do. Do what you've been doing." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do for a sponsor?" He said, "Well, call me every day." So I started calling her every day, and it just worked out. I finally just asked him to be my sponsor, and it's worked fine. He's not Keith, he's Clancy, but he's a great guy, and he's always there for me. And when I need something, he always gives it to me. And, it's a transition. Life is just changes, But Keith had this printed on his card. It said, "Dear God, help me to accept the seemingly bad as well as the good, which is necessary for my growth." And that's what's happened to me in my life. All of these things that have happened to me over the years, in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, that I thought were bad for me, were necessary for my growth. I know that now. I look back over all the things that I thought that, you want me to do that? Crazy? And I did it, and it made the biggest change of all. The only time that I ever had a problem with anything is when I refused to do something, or when I fought it. As long as I take this attitude that, this head don't give me good information, I need direction. Because I don't know what's good for me. I know that. I know that as sure as I'm standing here. I need a sponsor. I need the love and support of all the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. I need my friends, I need the people that I love and support me in Al-Anon. I need the whole thing. And I don't want to give up anything because it may be the thing that's going to change. So I still try to do it all, and I hope I never stop because I love Alcoholics Anonymous, I love Al-Anon, I love all you, and thank you.